October 18th, 1952. Dr. Eisler. Dr. Reich, the question I want to ask you is a very simple one. It is a very comprehensive question, but it is a simple one. I would like to know everything you know about Freud, everything you observed, and everything you thought, even if it is not based on a correct observation. The mere fact that you thought it about Freud would be so important for us to know. Dr. Reich. Well, that is quite a big order. I know a lot about Freud. I would like to start with a basic theoretical difference in the approach of psychoanalysis and my work. Not to propagate my work, but to explain how I saw Freud. Psychoanalysis, as you well know, works with words and unconscious ideas. These are its tools, according to Freud, as I understood them, as he published it. The unconscious can only be brought out as far back as Walter Vorschlugen. Semicolon verbal ideas. When the word images were formed. In other words, psychoanalysis cannot penetrate beneath or beyond the second or third year of life. Psychoanalysis is bound down by its method. It has to stick to that method, which is the handling of associations and word images. Now, character analysis developed the reading of emotional expressions, whereas Freud opened up the world of the unconscious mind, thoughts, desires, and so on. I succeeded in reading emotional expressions. Until then, we couldn't read the mind. We could only connect verbal associations. Is what I am saying perfectly clear? Dr. Eisler. Sure. Dr. Reich. When it becomes possible through character analysis to read emotional expressions, the patient does not have to talk. If we know the patient well enough, we know what's going on without words being spoken. You tell me what you are by way of your expression. Freud told me what he was through his facial expression. Would you look at this picture of Freud? Please go there and look at it. I don't know whether you will see what's in that picture. I didn't see it when I received it from him in 1925. Can you see what's in that picture? Dr. Eisler. Well, a little bit. Dr. Reich. It's a very sad expression. True despair. I began to see the despair in Freud's face some time around 1940, although he was dead. He had a great influence upon the direction of my further search in the realm of human emotions. What was his despair about? Now, if I am right, if I read the emotional expression correctly, the problem is why he was in such despair. And why didn't I see it before in 1925 or 1930? When I met Freud in 1919, he was a very alive person. I described him a bit in the first volume of the discovery of the orgone. He was alive. He was outgoing. He was hopeful. He was full of sense. Then around 1924, something happened. 1924. What happened in 1924? What happened? I don't know whether you know that he withdrew from all meetings and congresses in 1924, and he developed his cancer of the jaw at that time. Are you following me? Dr. Eisler. Sure. Yes. Dr. Reich. No, cancer, in my research, you know that I worked on it, is a disease following emotional resignation, a bioenergetic shrinking, a giving up of hope. Dr. Eisler. Yes. Dr. Reich. Now, that hooks on to Freud. Why did he develop cancer just at that time? Freud began to resign. If you don't follow, if anything is unclear, please just ask me. Interrupt me and ask freely. I didn't see it then, and peculiarly enough, the conflict between us also began about that time. Now, I want you to believe that it is not my intention to accuse anybody. I no longer have interest whatsoever in psychoanalytic movement. I've been completely on my own since about 1930. Some of the people who were involved at that time are now dead. Some are still alive. Some of their misdeeds still go on, are still active in one form or another. I want to add that whatever happened between the International Psychoanalytic Association, IPA, and myself, I ascribed at first to this person or that person, to the Psychoanalytic Association, to the betrayal of Freud and psychoanalysis, etc. And all that turned out to be wrong. Do you know what happened at that time? Dr. Eisler. Only the gross. Dr. Reich. I shall tell you the details. What happened at that time not only happened in the IPA from 1926 to 1934, it has happened all through the ages. It happened in the Christian church 1500 years ago. It happened in every home on this planet. Now that sounds peculiar, doesn't it? What happened? Do you know the term pestilent character? Dr. Eisler. Yes. Dr. Reich. That means, briefly, the following. There is a peaceful community, whether it be psychoanalysts or sociologists or just a community of people like this town of Wrangely. There are 2 or 3 people who are sick, emotionally sick, and they begin to stir up trouble. You still follow me? Dr. Eisler. Yes. Dr. Reich. No, these people are very small and insignificant historically, but at that time, they weren't insignificant to me or to other psychoanalysts. At that time, they were important because of the fight against the development from understanding human nature on the basis of words or associations or unconscious ideas to understanding human nature on that basis of bioenergetic expression. Movement, motion, emotion in essence. The development from symptom analysis to character analysis into orgotherapy was fought not by argument, not by counter evidence, but by slander. By slander, I say. There was one man, and I have to point him out. He's dead now. He shot himself. That's Paul Federn. There is evidence that in 1924 this man began to dig at Freud about me. I didn't know it then. Freud didn't know it. It became clear later on. He was jealous of my success. And the result was that mess in Lucerne. I don't know what has been deposited in the Freud archives about me. Slander of defamation. But I know it's around. I know who was involved in it. Jones was in it. I know that. And it was and it is evident from the letters which I wrote to Freud and Freud wrote to me. I don't know if you went through them. Did you read them? Dr. Eisler. Yes. Dr. Reich. Then you saw it was a great worry. In one letter, Freud expressed his assurance that no matter what people said about me, he would protect me. I don't know if you would remember that. It was about 1928 or so. Now this whole horrible thing burst out at the Lucerne Congress. Do you want to hear about that? Dr. Eisler. Yes. The Dr. Reich. That I seduced all my patients? I was a psychopath. I was this, I was that, and finally I had gone schizophrenic. That went on for years. You know that? Dr. Eisler. No, I did not know that. Dr. Reich. You don't know that rumor of schizophrenia? Oh, yes, that was spread by Phoenixel. Oh, yes, now today nobody believes it. It was quite a thing, quite a thing. I doubt that you never heard of it. That I'm paranoid, schizophrenic. Dr. Eisler. No, I didn't. Dr. Reich. Sure? Dr. Eisler. Sure, I didn't. Dr. Reich. You want to see the documents? Shall I give them to you? Dr. Eisler. Well, I mean, if you would, Dr. Reich. All right, yes, now listen, I can't explain how they came to invent with such a rumor to set such a rumor into motion about me in 1929. I think it was then I began to work in character analysis of physiological emotions with physiological feelings in the patients. You are acquainted with the character analysis? Dr. Heisley. Yes. Dr. Reich. You are sure you know what I call a preorgastic streamings or gonotic current? Dr. Eisler. I know a little bit. I know a little about that. Dr. Reich. You know something about it? Otherwise, there's no use. Dr. Eisler. Well, I know your literature pretty well up to the time you left Psychoanalytic and Movement. Dr. Reich. It was already in by then. You didn't read the third edition of Character Analysis. Dr. Eisler. No, not the third edition. Dr. Reich. Well, in schizophrenics, bioenergetic emotions, excitations break through into consciousness in the so-called normal human beings. These excitations are more or less shut off. This is particularly the case in the affect blocked compulsion neurotic and investigating the difference between the typical neurotic and the schizophrenic. I learned that the neurotic recognizes the excitations which break through spontaneously or in the course of treatment as biological as arising from within. The schizophrenic fails to recognize his primary biophysical sensations and plasmatic streamings as inner process and thus comes to misinterpret and distort them. That is, he believes the excitations, the sensations, the crawlings, the stirrings in him are due to outside influences. For example, to persecutors trying to electrocute him. He does perceive it by energetic motion, but he misinterprets it. This explanation of the schizophrenic process was viewed as distorted, even delusional, by psychoanalysts such as Jones, Verdun, Van Histro, and out of such things grew the slander of calling me paranoid schizophrenic. I want you to read that third edition. You have it? Dr. Eisler. That was not published in 1930. Dr. Reich. No, that was published in 1948. Dr. Eisler. But that played already a role. Dr. Reich. Oh yes, in 1934. Now, how far do you want to go to the secrets of psychoanalysis? Do you want to know? Dr. Eisler. Sure, Dr. Reich. You think there should be no limitations? Dr. Eisler. No limitations. Dr. Reich. I think the same thing. Dr. Eisler. I think it may be better understandable if you start with 1919 when you met Freud. Dr. Reich. No, wait a minute. It goes from 1919 right up to 1950. It's all one piece. Dr. Eisler. But you should start with 1919. Dr. Reich. Yes, I should start with despair. Dr. Eisler. But that was 1940. Dr. Reich. But I became aware of his despair in 1940. But the picture was given to me in 1925. Dr. Eisler. Yes, but Dr. Eisler. Yes, but we are in 1919, and that period from 1919 to 1925 is quite important. Dr. Reich. Exactly. That's why I come back now. I jump forward to tell you about the schizophrenic rumor, the rumors about my seducing passions, the defamation, sexual defamation, and so on. Now I have to go back to where Freud was in despair. Okay.